We're on the trail of another UFO today, and this one's called the Socorro landing, sometimes known as the Lonnie Zamora incident, because Lonnie Zamora was a police officer who not only witnessed this UFO, but reported it as well. So we're gonna follow the path that Lonnie Zamora took in the discovery of this UFO and exactly what happened on getting to the actual site itself, which we'll visit. So the first thing that happened was Zamora was at about this point when he noticed a speeding car, and that speeding car was coming along this road and it turned to the right. You can see there's a bit of an intersection here, and Lonnie Zamora noticed that this speeding car turned off to the right hand side and decided that he was going to follow that car and try to stop them, give them a ticket. Zamora only drove a short distance from that intersection until as he's chasing this car, he hears a very loud explosion off to his right-hand side. And he decides that must be the dynamite shack that just blew up. So he decides to turn to the right on this little road that you see right by the RV sign here. He turned right. He abandoned his chase of this speeding car because now he thinks he's got a dynamite shack that has just exploded somewhere off in the distance there. So from his right-hand turn onto this little road, he soon came to the hill that you see in front of us here. And at that time, I believe that this hill would have been not paved. I think it would have been dirt because he actually had to try 3 times to get up this hill because he's driving just a regular old car. You know, police back then didn't have an SUV or a truck to drive. So he had to actually try to get his car up this hill, taking 3 attempts before he finally made it up to the top. Once you get to the top of that hill, you have basically a little dirt road like you see here, and Zamora was driving his car along this little dirt road, and about this point here he sees something kind of down in a little low area here to the left, and he thinks it's an overturned car. So at this point he's shifting from suspecting that it is an exploded dynamite shack, which was over there. He now thinks he's got a rolled over car in this low area off in the distance here, and having stopped here for just a moment to kind of gather his thoughts, he continues kind of slowly driving along the dirt road. And this is a road I wouldn't suggest anybody drive along because I've noticed a lot of broken glass along here. But of course, those were different times, right? Nobody broke glass in 1964. I forgot to mention, this was April 24th, 1964. And it was about 5:45 to 6 o'clock in the evening when all of this took place. It was at this point approximately where Lonnie Zamora stopped his police car for the final time. You can see it's right kind of like around a bend that this road takes around a hill. And up here he was able to get a really good view of this craft, which was located right down in that low area behind me. And what he saw, of course, was this egg-shaped object, horizontally egg-shaped, and it had 4 landing gear coming down. He saw 2 little beings kind of milling about this craft, and as soon as he kind of got out of his car and looked down there, they apparently got scared, fired up this craft, and he reported that initially it made a very loud roaring sound. He saw blue flames shoot out of it, and it lifted off the ground to about the level that he was standing at. And at that point he got pretty scared, and he decided he's going to run across the road and kind of duck down over here, try to put his police car between himself and whatever's going on. And he can see that this craft, it stops making that roaring sound that initially it did, and it took off in that direction right there. And he said it cleared the dynamite shack by about 3 feet, which was right over there. So that's what he saw down there. But then of course after that he called some people to come out and take a look with him at this site down here. And one of those people, for example, was a New Mexico state trooper. So some pretty reliable people came out here and verified that, you know, something happened down in this low area. He wasn't just imagining what he saw. They found 4 impressions from the, presumably from the landing gear of this thing in the ground. They saw little footprints, apparently from these 2 guys that were kind of milling about, and 2 little guys. And I did find a golf ball down here, so who knows? You know, maybe they just stopped to hit some balls and got interrupted by Officer Zamora. But aside from the footprints and the landing gear, they also found that the ground was singed or burned. So something happened. I mean, it could be that Lonnie Zamora just kind of staged this thing, right? But what's the motivation? I mean, he never seemed to make any money off of it. He got some fame, but I don't know that it was really welcome fame. He actually didn't end up being a police officer for that much longer, and the second half of his life was spent working at the Socorro dump. And he was the guy who would kind of keep track of the cars that went in and out of the dump. So we don't know how much him reporting this affected his career or his life, but generally police officers or pilots and those types don't really want to have to report something like this, because it starts to bring into question, you know, is this person really okay? Should they be a police officer, right? And so not a lot of motivation for him to make this up or to stage this. Now, the reason I know that this is the exact spot is that there is a picture of Lonnie Zamora much later in life standing at the spot, and you can line up with the mountains and how that telephone pole crosses the mountains there, that this is where Zamora identified the landing as being. And there are some basically circles in the ground with rocks around them that, again, Zamora in that picture is, you know, he's aware of these circles and apparently agrees that these were where the landing gear essentially had been impressed or made impressions in the ground. So I found a couple of these circles around. I didn't find all 4 of them, but there is a circle of rocks there that does not look like it was made just by Mother Nature. And we've got a couple other circles. Here's one. And then there's one right over here. Again, this doesn't look like something that was randomly made by Mother Nature. I cannot say, however, that those circles, what their origin is. You know, if Lonnie Zamora made them, if so, when. We only know that there's a picture of him standing here later in life and essentially agreeing that this is the spot where he saw the Socorro UFO. Now we're on the other side of that low point that the UFO landed in, and we're on the nearest paved road. Hopefully I stated already, this all happened in Socorro, New Mexico. And it would seem that fairly recently the city of Socorro decided, you know, we've got this concrete flood structure here. Why don't we dress it up a little bit with a mural of the Socorro landing, and especially of Lonnie Zamora. So there he is. And you can see his police car and the UFO kind of taking off into the distance. Now, the actual landing, it was not far from this mural. It would have been in that direction right over there. And we can actually climb up here and just see what the lay of the land looks like at the top of all this. Right back behind those small hills, that road curves around a little bit, and that's where the Socorro landing took place. That's where the Lonnie Zamora experience happened. So if you enjoy these videos, I hope you'll like, I hope you'll subscribe, and until our next adventure, goodbye.